All right, today is Aleph Iyar. Today is the 16th day of the Yomer. We're learning Sotah Daf Tez Zayin. Yesterday we left off Daf Tezvav Amud Beis. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8 lines from the bottom of the Amud. By the two dots, Mokim Hayasham Amachulu. Okay. So, quoting from the Mishnah that we learned yesterday on Daf Tezvav Amud Beis, the Kohen would go after he would fill up the cup with water. The earthenware vessel, he would go into the Heichal, into the big building of the Beis Hamikdash, and then he would make it right. And over there somewhere there was a tile on the floor that had a ring on it, and he would be able to pick it up, take dirt from under it. Afar, minha afar he would put it on top of the water, and that made the site of water. So now, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a brayso, minha afar asher yeh. The pasuk says, from the dust that will be asher yeh, which will be bekarka mishkan, on the floor of the mishkan, yikach the kohen should take and put it in the water. So now we have to think. If the Torah would have just said asher yeh, that it will be, it doesn't say the dust of the ground of the mishkan. It says the dust that will be on the ground of the mishkan. The words asher yeh is coming to include something. So first of all, you might think that you could just take dust from outside of the Beis Hamikdash and bring it inside. So Talmud Lemer bekarka mishkan. So therefore, the Torah tells you no, it has to be bekarka mishkan. So now, bekarka mishkan. If once the Torah says bekarka mishkan inside the ground of the mishkan, yachol yachol bekardumais, you might think that now you have to go start digging inside the mishkan itself. Talmud Lemer asher yeh. That will be. So you have these two things. You have bekarka mishkan, which is coming to exclude that it has to be in the Beis Hamikdash, in the mishkan. Asher yeh is coming to include that it doesn't have to be dafka in the Beis Hamikdash. So that teaches you like this, that it has to be the Beis Hamikdash's floor. However, you don't need to go digging if you don't find any dirt there. So what happens? If there's already dirt on the floor of the Mishkan, so then have it, use that dirt. Ein sham, if there isn't, tein sham, then bring from outside, put it down on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash, and then use that. Okay, so that's Asher Yeh Bekarka Mishkan. These four words teach you. On the one hand, there's a chumrah that it has to be from the actual floor of the Beis Hamikdash, but on the other hand, there's a kula, which is that if there isn't dirt already there, you bring dirt from elsewhere, you place it down on the floor, and then you use that dirt. Okay. We have another brisa, however, which says differently. Brisa says like this: it darshans these exact psukim. It is explaining these words in the Torah and parts of Tanasai, but it explains it differently. From the dust that will be bekarka mishkan. So Malamed, it teaches us shahaya misakein mibachutz. It teaches you that originally you should take tezayin. It teaches you originally just the words after bekarka mishkan. It teaches you that you should take from outside umachlis and then bring it in. But then says the Torah bekarka mishkan. We're on Tezvav Amud Beis, all the way on the bottom, the last line. Umachlis bekarka mishkan. Yeah, umachlis. That so. So first of all, Asher means that you should think. It makes us think that you could bring from outside and bring it inside, because Asher is coming to include. Easy ben Yehuda Imer. So now bekarka mishkan. The words bekarka mishkan. Easy ben Yehuda Imer lavi karka shidoi nevegivanu v'seilam. And why does the Torah add the words bekarka mishkan? Bekarka mishkan seemingly is saying that the dust of the Sotah water has to be from the actual floor of the Beis Hamikdash, that you can't bring it from outside. So says Easy ben Yehuda that those words come to include the Bechlal, the mitzvah of Sotah, in the Beis Elamim, in the Beis Hamikdash. Because you might think that it has to be dafka only in a place where there's afar. The Mishkan was a temporary place in the desert. You didn't have a marble floor. You just had regular ground from outside. So the words bekarka mishkan teach you that even in the Beis Hamikdash, so he's more lenient than the last brisa. The first brisa said that bekarka mishkan teaches you that it has to be on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash, and if there isn't thing over there, so Asher Yeh teaches you that you bring from outside and you put it down and then you use that. However, Isi ben Yehuda is saying that karka mishkan teaches you that b'chlal, that the Indian of Sotah even exists in other eras of time. Isi ben Menachem Eimer, however, that ain't tzarech. No. I don't need a pasuk to tell me that the obligation of Sotah happens also in the Beis Elamim. Why? Because I have a kal v'chomer betuma kala leicholak hakosov, if by a small tuma, which a light tuma is the isser of going into the Beis Hamikdash. Going into the Beis Hamikdash when a person's tameh, is a chiyuv misa b'nei shamayim. The Hashem kills the person. So, and over there, the Torah makes it clear that it doesn't make a difference whether it's the Mishkan or whether it is the Beis Hamikdash. We're on the second line of Tazayin Amud Aleph. The Torah doesn't make a difference. So, B'tumas Eishes Ish, Chamura, yeah, Tazayin Amud Aleph. We're on the fourth line now. B'tumas Eishes Ish, when it comes to the defilement of an Eishes Ish, of a man's wife, Chamura, which is much more stringent because there you have the punishment of a death penalty from the court. So, like Kolshikin, for sure, it shouldn't make a difference whether it's the Beis Hamikdash or. So then, Imke and Matamad Lemer Bekarka Mishkan. So according to now Isi ben Menachem, who says that you don't need the words Bekarka Mishkan to teach you that it applies in the Beis Hamikdash, because B'chlal from a Kal V'Chomer it applies in the Beis Hamikdash. So what do the words Bekarka Mishkan teach you now? Shalai Yavi Mizet Chupa, say that you shouldn't bring from your own box, that you shouldn't bring dust from your house and bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. No, he learns like the first brisa that it has to be in the actual Beis Hamikdash. That it has to be actually in the Beis Hamikdash, and if there isn't any dust in the Beis Hamikdash that you bring from outside, you put it down and good. Okay, so now we have these two brises, beautiful, that argue about how we darshan the pasuk min ha'afar ha'shayiyah b'karka mishkan. Okay, new topic. 5 lines from the top. Follow along. Tezayin Amud Aleph in middle of the line. Ibayalahu, the students asked the question. Ein sham afar, what happens if there's no dust in the Beis Hamikdash? So mao she'itin efer. Remember, the Sotah water needs to have dust in it. What happens if there's no dust? Are you allowed to use ashes? Are ashes counted as dust? So now, first of all, says the Gemara, Aliba de Beis Shammai leiti ba'ilach. Don't ask this question according to Beis Shammai. Why? Because according to Beis Shammai, this question is not a question. The Amri le matzinu efer shekarei afar, because according to Beis Shammai, efer and afar are never interchangeable. And this machlekes is in Maseches Chulin between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel about covering the blood, where Beis Shammai says, the Torah says that you have to cover it ba'afar. Beis Shammai says that means it has to be actually afar, dust, and it can't be afer, ashes. Beis Hillel says no, it could even be afer. So according to Beis Shammai, for sure this question doesn't exist, because according to Beis Shammai, afar is afar, afer is afer. That's it. However, Kiti Baila Chalibah Beis Hillel. The Shaila is according to Beis Hillel. The Amri that Beis Hillel hold that Matzino Efer Shekarei Offer. That say that we find in the Torah places that Efer is that ashes are called Offer. And where is that? We're going to learn later on Amud Beis that we're going to have the story in Parshas Chukas, the halachis of the Paraduma, where over there you burn the cow, so you have Efer, you have ashes. But the Torah says at the end, it calls the ashes afar with an ayin. Afar means dust. So there, Beis Hillel says, afer, ashes are called afar dust. So b'chlal in the Torah, whenever it's ashes or dust, they're interchangeable. So first of all, by shchitas chulin, by shechting the birds and covering the blood, where the Torah says dust, Beis Hillel says you could use ashes. Now we're asking the Shaila, according to Beis Hillel, by Sotah, but the Torah also says dust. Does it have to be dust, or could it even be ashes? So now, says the Gemara like this. Afal gav, yeah. So hacha bekarka mishkan ksiv. Idilma hay bekarka mishkan lekid Isi ben Yehuda. Lekid Isi ben Menachem hudasi. When we say the words bekarka mishkan, the extra words bekarka mishkan comes to teach you that it has to be actually the dust of the Beis Hamikdash, which means that it can't be ashes. Or do we say like the second brisa, which says that Chlal, the Karka Mishkan teaches you other things, that it's teaching you about that it could be in the Beis Hamikdash, even not in the Mishkan, and then the words Bekarka Mishkan aren't telling you that it has to be Dafka, the actual floor of the Beis Hamikdash, and it could be ashes, right? So that's the Shaila. According to these two brisas, it could go both ways according to Beis Hillel. So now Tashma, let's bring a proof. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan said Misham Rabbi Yishmael in the name of Rabbi Yishmael. In 3 places, halacha ekeves mikra. There's 3 places in the Torah that the halacha that we have, the tradition that we have, uproots what it actually says in the Torah. We learned yesterday about the pasuk in Chalitza. That's talking about how we have a full pasuk that we don't darshan literally, which is the pasuk v'haya b'char asher telei. But here we're asking just not a full pasuk, just a place where the Torah says something, and our tradition comes and uproots that tradition. So 3 places. Torah Amra, number 1, be'afar. Number 1 is where the Torah says that you need to cover the blood of wild animals and of birds that you shecht. You cover the blood with afar, with dust. However, our tradition says that you could use ashes. Yeah? Our tradition says that you could use ashes. So our tradition, which says it could be ashes, uproots what it says in the Torah that it has to be dust. That's number one. Number two is the next one is about a nazir, someone who takes a vow of nazir, someone who promises that he's going to be a nazir, which means that he's not able to cut his hair for a certain amount of time. At the end of his time of nazirus, the Torah says that he goes to the Beis Hamikdash and he cuts his hair, and it says that he should cut his hair. Sorry, I take that back. A nazir is not allowed to cut his hair for a certain amount of time. During that amount of time, so the Torah says tar le'yavar al resha, that a razor is not able to go on his head, meaning that he's not able to shave his head off with a razor. However, the halacha is, our tradition is that it's not just a razor that he's not allowed to use on his head. He's not allowed to do anything. He's not even allowed to cut it with scissors, right? So our halacha, our tradition, uproots that what it says in the Torah. The Torah just says razor. The Torah says sefer. When it comes to divorce in Parshas Kiseitze, yeah.
How often could he cut his hair?
Good question. So a nazir depends. A regular nazir is not a nazir for his whole life. He says, I'm going to be a nazir. If a guy just says, I'm going to be a nazir, that means 30 days. If he wants, it could be longer. He could say, I'm going to be a nazir for a year. I'm going to be a nazir for 2 years. So in that case, a nazir cuts his hair. He can't cut his hair in between. He only cuts his hair at the end of the time. However, if he says that I'm going to be a nazir forever, so in that case, he could cut his hair every year. He could give it a trim to make sure, because it gets too heavy.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Torah says in Parshas Kiseitze that when a man divorces his wife, he has to write a get, and the Torah says that he writes her a sefer krisos. A sefer in the Torah means parchment, that it has to be on parchment. However, the halacha is that if a man writes a get on anything that's not parchment, it's also kosher. So we have these three cases, which is the dust of covering the blood. We have the
whole meaning of the paper and the get is that paper back then was interchangeable. The word that they used, get,
sefer. The Torah says the word sefer. Sefer means on parchment.
Right.
However, the halacha is that it doesn't have to be parchment itself. It can be anything really, as long as it's not attached to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you use as a here?
1 second. So we're saying that there's three. Well, we'll see where we're getting to. So far, we have three things that Rabbi Yishmael says. The Torah says one thing, and our tradition uproots that which the Torah says. So 1 second, before we get to the proof. Right, and the proof is going to be Vim Isa Lichev Nami High. And if you're going to say that when it comes to Sotah, the Torah says afar dirt, but you could really use ashes, right? You could even use ashes. So then this should be included in that brisa, right? Why the Rabbi Shmuel says it's only three things? That means there's nothing else, which means that by a Sotah it has to be actually what it says in the Torah. But before we get there, we brought three cases, which is the Torah says to cover the blood of the animals with dust, and we said you can even do it with ashes. The Torah said the nazir can't cut his hair with a razor, and we said even anything else. And we said that the Torah says that the get has to be written on parchment, but then we said that it could be on it. So which one is the Yotzei min haklal? Which one of these three cases is dissimilar to the other two? So if you think about it, case number one and case number three, the case of how you have to cover the Torah says cover the blood with dirt, but then our tradition says that you can even do it with anything else. So we're being lenient, right? So the Torah is being strict, and our tradition is being lenient. Case number three also, the Torah says it should be on parchment, and our tradition says it could really be anything. So the Torah is being strict, and our tradition is being more lenient. So we're uprooting that which it says in the Torah. The Torah says to be strict, to be machmer. We're uprooting that, and we're being lenient. Mashenkin in the second case said that the Nazir can't cut his hair with a razor. Our tradition added that it could even be that even anything else.
A pot that's used for pasta, mac and cheese.
Yeah.
If it was used for inflation pasta,
In a second.
it was water. Wait, and
Okay, so going back to where we were. However, the middle case, the case of Nazir, where the Torah says that he's not allowed to use a razor, and the Chachamim said that he's not even allowed to use anything else. So we're being more strict, right? The Chachamim are adding an Isser. We're not uprooting what the Torah says. The Torah says you can't do it with razor. The Chachamim are saying we agree you can't use a razor, but you also can't use scissors or whatever electric shaver for the Nazir. Yeah. So we're just adding. So we're not uprooting. So what's going on? Why is this case included? So Rashi says something very interesting. Rashi says that a Nazir who cuts his hair gets malchus. We punish him. Now, the Torah is really being more strict. The Torah is saying, I'm only allowing you to give someone malchus if he cuts his hair with a razor. Right? See, this is all a circle of hair. Because the Torah only lets you give malchus to someone that's mechuyev malchus. There's actually an isser in the Torah. There's an avera to give someone malchus if he doesn't need to get malchus. Pen Yosef, it's a isser in Parshas Kiseitze. So the Torah says, I'm allowing you to give malchus to someone who is chayav malchus, only to someone who cut his hair with a razor. The chachamim are adding that even someone who cut his hair with a scissor gets malchus. So really, the chachamim are being more lenient than the Torah. Right? On the surface, it seems like the chachamim are being more strict because it seems like they're saying that Nazir, the Torah says you can't cut your hair with a razor. We're adding that you can't even cut your hair with a scissor. But if you look at it on the flip side, they're also being more lenient because the Torah says that you Bezdin can only give malchus to a Nazir that cut his hair with a razor. And the Chachamim are saying, Bezdin, you could even give malchus to a Nazir that cut his hair with a scissor. So they're also being more lenient than the Torah. And in that case, they're uprooting that which the Torah says. And therefore, it's included in these three halachas of Kisoy Adam, Nazir, and Get. Okay. So now, Im Isa, if you're going to hold that the Sotah dust could really be ashes, so then Lichshav Nami Hai, it should be included in this Mishnah. And the fact that it's not included in this statement from Rabbi Yishmael teaches us that what? That you are not able to interchange them. Says the Gemara, no, Tana Vashir. You could say that the Brisa, that Rabbi Yishmael was just teaching three things, and he left out everything else. He only took three examples. He wasn't trying to say every single example. He was leaving out examples. Now, and therefore he didn't mention the case of the Sotah because whatever, it's just another case. There's plenty of cases that are like this, that the Torah uproots, that the Chacham uproot what it says in the Torah. And Rabbi Yishmael was only giving three examples. So Tana Vashir, there's more cases after the Brisa. However, the Chacham, the Gemara says that the rule is that whenever you want to say Tana Vashir, whenever you want to use that answer, that he was saying three things, but he left out other things. So you need to find at least two cases that the Tana left out. Because if there's only one case that the Tana left out, if you can only find one case that the Tana left out, you can't say Tana Vashir, because then we assume that the Tana that said that it's three things is saying that it's three things to the exclusion of that one thing. Why B'chlal does he have to count them? Just say two of them. The fact that he says three of them and leaves out only one of them shows that I don't hold of that last one that you think. So whenever you want to use the answer of Tana Vashir that the Brisa left out more cases than what it mentions, you have to bring at least two cases that the Brisa left out. So now, my shir, the high shir, what else did he leave out? Where the Chacham uproot what it says in the Torah, that you could say that Rabbi Yishmael left out that, and he left out and he left out the case of Sotah. So shir mitzayra. So first we try to say that he left out mitzayra. Tanya, we learned in a Brisa that the Haya by Mashvi Yigalach has called Sa'aray. So the way it works by mitzayra, when the tzaras becomes smaller and it comes time for him to become pure. So the Kohen sees him and there's a whole process, but in order for him to become pure. So first of all, the first day that the Kohen goes to him, he shaves off all of his hair. Then the seventh day, and his beard, everything. The seventh day, he again shaves off everything, his entire body. And then on the eighth day, he goes to the Beis Hamikdash and he brings karbanos. And then after that, he's pure. That's the way it works with the Taras and Mitzayr. And we're going to learn that on the seventh day, there's the two birds, and we're going to learn a lot of details about that today. And a whole ritual that they had to do. But the point is that the shaving happens twice, day number 1 and day number 7. So now, when it comes to a mitzayra, it says that on the seventh day, yes, to shave all of his hair, kol sa'aray. So he should shave his entire hair. That's klal. That's a general thing. All of his hair. That's a general statement. Shave all your hair. And then the Torah says, what do you have to shave? Es roishay, his head, ve'es zekona, his beard, ve'es gabais einav, and his eyebrows. So those are three details. So that's not. So if it would have just said roishay, zekona, ve'es gabais einav, you wouldn't think anything about all of his entire body, just his beard, just his eyebrows, and just his head. Yeah. So the Torah first says a klal, then it says roishay, zekona, gabais einav. So that's a prat, that's a detail. Ve'es kol sa'arei yigaleach, and then the Torah again continues and says he should shave all of his hair. So chazar v'kolal. So then there's another klal. It's another general statement. So how does that work? What do we do when you have a klal u'pratu klal? We say this before davening. And klal u'pratu klal yatadon elakein aprat. So the rule is that when you have a klal u'pratu klal, a general statement, a specific statement, and then another general statement, so you include anything that's similar to the prat, that's similar to the detail. And ma prat mefurash, just like by the detail, which the Torah gave us three details: hair, beard, and eyebrows. So those three places is makom kinoseir. First of all, it's a lot of hair together. It's plenty of hair in one spot. It's not like the rest of the body where it's not all bunched together, the hair. And vinira, and it's seen, which means when you're just looking at the person straight, you can see those three places of hair. So first of all, so that's the details. So now when you do klal prat to klal, it's something that's similar to the prat. So the klal is only there to add. The main thing is the prat. The main thing is the details, and the klal is only there sandwiching the prat in order to add anything that's similar to the prat. And what's similar to the prat? So ma Rabbi, what's it coming to include? Rabbi seir haraglayim, the hair of the pubic hair in the person's private part. So there also, if you're looking at a person straight with when he's not wearing clothes, you could see it, and it's a lot of hair in one place. And my mi'et, so what's the Torah coming to exclude now by having the what's it called? By the details, the details are coming to exclude what? Mi'et the beis hashachi. It's excluding the armpit hair that the Mitzvah doesn't have to shave, because if a man's standing straight, you can't see the armpit hair because it's under his armpits. He has to pick up his hands to see it. Ooh, the kule gufe, and the rest of his entire hair on his entire body. So now, these three psukim, the whole hula hoop that we just did with the pasuk of klal prat klal is just coming to include the pubic hair. So you have eyebrows, beard, hair, and pubic hair. That's what the mitzvah has to shave. This is what we learn from the klal prat klal. This is what we learn from just reading the psukim. However, we know that the halacha is not like that. What's the halacha? The halacha is we have a mishnah in Negoim that says Megalech kidlas. He shaves himself like a pumpkin, just like a pumpkin doesn't have any hair on it. So he has to shave his entire body until he's mamish hairless. The Tanan, like we have the Mishnah in Negoim that he's coming to shave the mitzvah. So Ma'aber Tar al Kol Basara, he passes this razor on his entire body, all of his flesh. Gatani Seifa, and the Seifa of that Mishnah says that that in the seventh day, on the seventh day, he shaves just like the first day. That Mishnah was talking about the first shaving, and our pasuk, this brisa is also talking about the seventh. Our pasuk and the brisa that we just brought is talking about the seventh day. This is by Yom HaShvi. But the Mishnah over there says that the seventh day he shaves just like the first day. Just like the first day he has to shave the entire body, so to the seventh day. Yeah. So now what? So here we just brought an extra case where the Chachamim uproot what it says in the pasuk. The pasuk says that you only have to shave the eyebrows, the beard, the hair, and the pubic hair. Comes the Chachamim and they say, no, you actually have to shave the entire body. So now you have two cases, and now we can include Sotah. That Sotah also you could use Afer. So Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, no, you can't use this halacha. Why? Kika chashuv hilchas halacha ekeves mikra. Rabbi Yishmael in his list was trying to say places where the halacha is uprooting a pasuk, where a halacha, where a tradition is uprooting a pasuk davke, but your case that you just brought about the Sotah, a keves midrabanan, you're not uprooting the pasuk, you're uprooting what the Chachamim learned from the pasuk. Pasuk doesn't say that you have to shave your head, eyebrows, pubic hair. The Torah says that you shave all the hair and the thing and all the hair. It's a klal prat klal. The Chachamim are the ones that learned from there that the pasuk only means those four things. The Torah doesn't say that clearly. Rabbi Yishmael is only counting things that the halacha uproots what the Torah says clearly. So you can't include this case because it's not a thing that the Torah clearly says. So that's reason number one why that's not a good proof. Next, Rav Papa says that Kika Chashiv. What was Rabbi Yishmael counting? Halacha ikeves ikeres ha ikeves u'maisefes. Our Mishnah was only saying where the halacha uproots a pasuk that the Chachamim are being more lenient. That the Chachamim said that you might think that you can only the Torah says that you have to cover the blood with dust. We're saying you can even cover it with ashes. So to the other ones, where the Chachamim are being more lenient than the pasuk. Over here, the Chachamim are being more strict. The Chachamim says he has to shave his entire body. Yeah, the pasuk seemingly only says the hair and whatever and the beard and the eyebrows. Yeah. So that's reason number two why it's not a good proof. Then Rav Ashi says another reason. Very simple. Hamas Visamani, our brisa is who? The brisa that we just brought about the Mitzvah, it's Rabbi Yishmael. Why does it have to be Rabbi Yishmael? The Darish Klalu Prati. Rabbi Yishmael is the one that holds of Klalu Prat. So 1 second. In davening, we say Rabbi Yishmael Emer B'Shleish Hasemidas, the 13 ways that you learn halachas out of the Torah. And one of the ways is Klalu Prat. So Klalu Prat, this methodology of learning, is the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. However, Rabbi Akiva argues with Rabbi Yishmael, and he says that you don't learn Klalu Prat, you learn Ribuy U'Miyot, which we're going to learn in a second. The Ribuy U'Miyot is a different methodology, which we'll discuss when we get there. But the Klalu Prat methodology that you do, and when you have a klal and a prat and a klal in the Torah, you go anything that's similar to the prat. So that's only Rabbi Yishmael's opinion. So Rabbi Yishmael is of the opinion of this whole brisa. And now, Kidlas Mani, turning Talmud Beis, who is the Tana that holds that the Mitzvah shaves his entire body? Rabbi Akiva, it's Rabbi Akiva. So very simple. Rabbi Yishmael, who doesn't hold of this Ikeres Mikra, because he holds that Rabbi Yishmael holds that the pasuk stands. The pasuk says that you shave the head, the eyebrows, and the pubic hair according to our klal prat methodology, and Rabbi Yishmael stands by that. He says that's the halacha. The one who argues with him and says that the halacha is a dlas, that you shave the entire body, that's Rabbi Akiva. That's not Rabbi Yishmael. So you don't have halacha ikeres samikra. You don't have halacha uprooting what it says in the Torah, because according to Rabbi Yishmael, who's the only one that holds that that's what it says in the Torah, the halacha doesn't uproot it. According to Rabbi Yishmael, the halacha stands like what it says in the Torah. Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva is the one that says dlas, the darish ribu yomiyute, because he holds not of klal prat, he holds of ribu yomiyut. Tanya. So now we have like this: ribu yomiyut is including and excluding. Klal prat is general and specific, where the Torah says do anything, you have to add anything that's including that's similar to the specific klal prat. So it's more inclusionary. Ribu yomiyut is more exclusionary. Where you have a ribu, the Torah includes a lot of details, and then excludes. The Torah is narrowing the inclusionary thing to anything the Torah is narrowing the thing. We're gonna work it out in a second. So now the Tanya, you have again ribu yomiyut. This is Rabbi Akiva now learning the pasuk. On the seventh day he shaves all of his hair. So riba, that's a ribu, that he shaves all of the hair. Only the hair on the head, the beard, the eyebrows. So miyet, that's an exclusion. Only three things. Then he shaves all of his hair. But the Torah again includes. So riba, miyet v'riba, riba hakoil. When you're doing riba and miyot and another riba, sorry, Rabbi Yishmael's riba and miyot is more inclusionary because it's just narrowing the. Rabbi Yishmael says that iyatadon you can only include ke'ena prat, something that's similar to the prat. When it comes to riboy umiyot, you don't say iyatadon ela ke'ena miyot. No, you say that we're just limiting the riboy to anything that's not similar at all to the miyot. You know what's going on? By Rabbi Yishmael, the focus is on the prat. By Rabbi Akiva, the focus is on the riboy. By Rabbi Akiva, the focus is on the riboy, that you're including mamish, almost everything is included in this case because of the riboy. However, what's the prat there for? What's the miyot there for? The miyot is only there to tell you that anything that's totally dissimilar to the miyot is not included in this halacha, as we're going to see in a second. Rabbi Yishmael holds that klalu prat, it's only focused on the prat, anything similar to the prat. That's why the prat is there. The klal is coming just to teach you that something that's also similar to the prat. So you also have pubic hair, according to Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva is going to be much more things. So it's coming to include everything, and the miyot is only there to say something that's dissimilar to the miyot entirely is not included. So my riba, what's it including? Riba the kule gufe. Rabbi Akiva says that it includes his entire body after shave. Umay miyot, and what's it excluding? The miyot. The miyot has to exclude something that's totally dissimilar to it. Miyot say or it excludes the hair that's inside of his nose, because over there Yusai can't see it. Yusai, it's not in the same place. So it's mamish dissimilar to the hairs that the Torah mentioned of head, beard, and eyebrows, and therefore Rabbi Akiva holds that megalech kidlas, you have to shave the guy like a pumpkin, totally no hair, and therefore we just disproved what we were trying to work on, that you have two things, and then you could add the efer of the Sotah into that statement of Rabbi Yishmael. So basically, we don't have a proof yet that Sotah dust could really be ashes. So now, ask the Gemara, my Havi, bottom line, what's the halacha? What happened to this machlekes? So Tashma, we have a proof. Dam Rav Huna Barashi Amar Rav. Rav Huna Barashi said in the name of Rav, Ein Shav Afar. If you don't have Afar, maybe Rakvuvis Yarak. You bring decayed vegetables. So what do we? So Umekadesh, you can put it on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash and you could use it. So seemingly, what's the answer? Could you use ashes or not? Yeah. Seemingly, yes, because the Torah says you have to use dust. Now we're saying you can use decayed vegetables, so for sure ashes. It just means you can use anything else that's similar to it. However, he says the Gemara, don't think that it means that you could use ashes. Why? Because Rakvuvis Yarak hu dahavoy avar. Rakvuvis Yarak, decayed vegetables turn into dust. That's considered dust according to the Torah. Efer loy havoy avar. Ashes are not dust. You can't compare it. So bottom line, the halacha is that by Sotah you can't use ashes. It has to be dust. Okay. Now we're by the two dots. You see? We are 8, 9, 10 lines from the top of the Yom. You have to have enough dust in there that'll be able to be seen over the water, that you could see it in the water. So now, Tanu Rabbanon, the Chachamim learned in a brisa that Shloisha Tzrichin Sheiro. There's three things that need to be seen. What are the three things that, according to halacha, need to be seen? Number one is afar Sotah, the dust in the Sotah water has to be seen, like we said in the Mishnah. The Efer Para, when it comes to the Para Aduma water, you burn the cow and you put the ashes in water, and the ashes need to be able to be seen in the water. You have to see them. And Viroik Yivama, and like we learned yesterday, the spit of the Yivama, when she spits in front of this Canaan by Chalitza, the spit has to be able to be seen. And now, Mishum Rabbi Yishmael Amru, in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, they said that Af Dam Tzipor, that there's another thing that has to be able to be seen, which is the blood of the bird. So what's the blood of the bird? We're talking about a specific shchita. In the Taras HaMetzora, on the day number 7, on day number 7, he takes two birds. The Metzora takes two birds. And the Torah says that you bring two birds to a field, you have a thing of water over there, and you shech bird number 1 over the water in the kli cheres, in the earthenware vessel. So the blood of the first bird needs to be able to be seen in the water. Yeah? You got that? Yeah. The blood of bird number 1 needs to be able to be seen in the water by the Metzora. So now, my time with Rabbi Yishmael, so Rabbi Yishmael says that blood needs to be seen. The Chachamim say that the blood needs to be in the water, but it doesn't need to be seen. So my time with Rabbi Yishmael, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Yishmael who says that it needs to be seen? I wanted to follow along. You have to get the psukim over here, the Ksiv, because it says in the pasuk, "V'taval oisam b'dama tzipar v'goymer." The Torah says that you have the dead, you have a dead bird. You shechted one bird already, and the blood is in the water. And the Torah says that you take the alive bird, the other bird, you take the 8 zeres that we spoke about yesterday, the cedar wood, the hyssop branch, and the shnitelas, the wool of scarlet, the scarlet wool. You dip them into the damatzipar, into the blood of the bird, and into the water. So now, Vitanya, the Brisa teaches like this: Badam, you dip it into the blood, yachal badam v'lebamayim. So you might think that you only need to dip it into the blood. You don't need to dip it into the water. So Talmud lemer b'mayim, that it also has to be the water. So now, imayim, if it would have just said water, yachal b'mayim v'lebadam, you might think just water, not blood. Talmud lemer b'dam. So haketzat. So how do you do it? Maybe mayim shadam tzipar nikar bahen. You have to have blood that you have to have water that you can see the blood inside of it. And it's mayim and blood together, because the Torah says you have to dip it into the mayim, you have to dip it into the blood. Why does the Torah have to say it 2 times, mayim and blood? Both opinions hold that they have to be mixed. Rabbi Yishmael is trying to prove that it has to be seen, that you have to be able to see the blood. So the fact that the Torah says water and blood, it says both of them and gives us and specifies both of them. It means that they both have to be prominent. You have to be able to see both of them. So you have to be able to see the blood inside of it. And the kama, and how much water should there be that you'll be able to see the blood in it? Revius, a fourth of a lug, which is 3.5 fluid ounces. So that's Rabbi Yishmael. However, Rabbanon hahulu gufe. The fact that the Torah says the Rabbanon say it has to be mixed, but they don't say that you have to be able to see the blood. So why does the Torah say in the water and in the blood? To teach you that they have to be mixed b'chlal. Hahulu gufe. The Torah is saying, dip it in the blood and the water. If not for it saying blood and water, you might have just thought that you could dip it into the water by itself without any blood in it. You could dip it into the blood itself without water. So comes the Torah and says in the blood and in the water, just to teach you the halacha that you have to dip it into both of them. But Rabbi Yishmael says that if the Torah was just trying to tell me that you can dip it into them, the Torah should have wrote and dip it into them. Why does the Torah have to say dip it into the blood and dip it into the water, not just dip it into them? Because they're mixed together. The Torah says them separately to tell you that you have to be able to see the blood. So now, it has to be able to be seen. The Chachamim counter, and they say that if the Torah would have said, like you're saying, that the Torah should say that he should dip it into them, you might think that he could dip it into the blood separately and into the water separately. First dip it into the blood and then the water. The Torah has to say into the blood and into the water to teach you that they're mixed together. Because of Rahmana, the dam of mayim la'arvan, that you have to mix them together. Rabbi Yishmael counters la'arvan, in order to know that you have to mix them. I have a different pasuk that tells me what? That when the Torah is saying that you shech bird number 1, the Torah says you shech bird number 1 on top of the kli, on top of the water. So obviously, if you're shechting the bird on top of the water, of course the blood is mixing with the water. So I already know that they're mixed together. So what's the Torah adding badam uvamayim to teach me that I have to be able to see the blood also? So now, Rabbanan, that's a good shaila, yeah? That's a good shaila on the Chachamim. That Rabbi Shmuel said, the Torah says that you're shechting the bird over the water, so of course the blood's mixing. So I don't need an extra pasuk to tell me that. So say the Chachamim, no. If I would have just had that pasuk that you shech the bird on top of the water, so have I would have thought that what are you able to do? You could shech the bird, samach lamana, on top of the vessel of water, but then v'niktinu livridin, and then you should hold on your fingers on the veins so that no blood comes out, and move the bird and put the blood in a different vessel. The Torah doesn't say clearly that the blood has to be mixed with the water. The Torah just says you shecht it on top of the water. It doesn't mean that the blood's mixing. It just means that the shechting happens above it. Yeah, it's a good word. So Kamash Malon, so teaches me the Torah, Badam, Uvamayim, that they have to be mixed together. So now we have this machlekes, right? Rabbi Shmuel holds that they both hold that the blood and water are mixed together by a mitzvah. Rabbi Shmuel holds that it has to be nicker, it has to be seen, and the Chachamim hold that it doesn't have to be seen. So that's this machlekes, the three things that the Chachamim say have to be seen, which is what the afar Sotah, Efer Para, and the Reik Yavama. And Rabbi Shmuel adds the dam tzibur. So now, Rabbi Yirmiyah asked Rabbi Zera. He said, what happens if you have a very big bird for the mitzvah and it has a lot of blood? So there's not going to be enough water. It's just going to look like blood. Yeah. Or if you have a very small bird and there's not a lot of blood, so there's going to be more water and you're not going to be able to see the blood. So what happens? How much water should you use? We learned that it has to be a revius, right? And what if it's a very big bird? Do you still use a revius? You should use more water. If it's a very small bird, you should use less than a revius of water so that it could be mixed. So now Amar Le says, Rabbi Zera to Rabbi Yirmiyah, Lava Minolach, did I not tell you that Le Sapik Nafshach Levar Mehilchasa, don't remove your heart, don't remove yourself from outside the halacha? The Chachamim said halacha, it's precise. You don't have to question the halacha. But Tzipur Drar Shiru Rabbanim, when the Chachamim were coming up that the water should be a revius, they measured with actual birds. They used the Tzipur Drar, which is the kind of bird that they use for the mitzvah process, the drar bird, and they measured with real drar birds about the biggest bird that they could find and the smallest bird they could find, and they found that a revius of water is enough water for a big bird and for a small bird, that it's the perfect amount. Okay. You can't have a bigger bird than the drar bird that's gonna make there be only blood and not water, and it's not too small that it will take away the blood and it'll only be water. Okay, we're almost finished, guys. Tanu Rabbanan, towards the bottom of the Yom. Tanu Rabbanan, the Chachamim, Tanu Nabraisa, that hikdim afar lamayim. If the guy put first the dust of the Sotah, and then he put in the water, puzzle, it's puzzle. However, for Reb Shimon Machshir, Reb Shimon says it's kosher. You see where we are, Yossi? So in the Sotah water, you have water in the vessel, and you have dust. So Tanakama says it has to be first water and then dust. You put the dust on the water. Reb Shimon says that either way it's kosher. Okay. We're on Tezayin Amud Beis. So now, my time with Reb Shimon, what's the reasoning of Reb Shimon that says that it's kosher, right? Because the pasuk says that you take you have water in the vessel, and then you take dust and you put it on top of the water. So from the pasuk, it sounds like Tanakama, that it has to be first water and then dust. Reb Shimon says even the other way around is good. So how come Reb Shimon says that it's kosher either way? My time with Reb Shimon the Chsiv, so he's bringing a proof from Paraduma. By the Paraduma, it says that you take to the impure one, to the guy who's Tamei Meis, you bring from the dust of the burning of the Chatas. You burn the Paraduma, you take the ashes, and it says you take from the dust, we're going to have to darshan all these words. You take from the dust of the Paraduma and you put it into the Vinasan, and you put it into a vessel, and you put water on top of that. Vinasan alav mayim chayim el keli. You put water into the vessel. Okay? So now says Reb Shimon, you take the dust of the burning chatos. Tanya, and we learned in the Brisa that Reb Shimon says, Reb Shimon, afaru. Is it afar? Is it dust? It's not true. By the paraduma, it's not dust, it's ashes. So Shina Akasav b'mashmoi. Why did the Torah change the wording from afer to afar? Why the Torah doesn't say ashes? The Torah says dust. It's switched purposely. Why? Ladun, in order to teach you, hey manu to teach you Xereshava, that Nemar kan afar. Since over here by Paraduma it says the word afar, v'Nemar lalan afar, and it says by Sotah afar, ma lalan afar al gabe mayim. So Avkan afar al gabe mayim. Just like by Sotah the Torah says that it should be first the water in the vessel and then the dust. So too, learn that Gzeir Shava to Paraduma, that you should first put in the water and then the dust. Good. So first of all, we're learning a halacha from Sotah to Paraduma, that you have first water and then dust. However, umakan hikdim afar l'mayim kosher, but now you have to learn the other way also. That just like by Paraduma, if the guy first put water and then if the guy first put the ashes and then put the water, it's still going to be kosher. Aflalon hikdim aflalon hikdim afar l'mayim kosher. So to by Sotah, if the guy first put the dust and then the water, it'll still be kosher. So that's Reb Shimon's reasoning, this Gzeir Shava, afar. So now, 1 second. How do we know B'chlal that by Paraduma, if you first put the ashes and then the water, it's still going to be kosher? Maybe it has to first be water and then afar, and if not, it's not going to be kosher. So Trei Kroiksivi. So because we have two things in the pasuk, the Torah says like this: Ksiv olav, Alma Efer Beresha, Uksiv Mayim Chaim El Keli, Alma Mayim Beresha. The Torah says, you take from the ashes of the burning Paraduma, and you put upon it Mayim Chaim, living waters. So what does that seem? So what do we learn from there? That you put on the ashes the water. It seems that you first have to put the ashes and then you put the water. Yeah. However, the problem is the Torah says that you put Mayim Chaim El Keli. You put the water into the vessel, which means that it should be straight into the vessel. There should be nothing blocking the water in the vessel, which means that the water goes first. So which one is it? It's a steer in the pasuk. Do you first put the ashes and then the water, or do you first put the water and then the ashes? So how do we reconcile these pasukim? So Rata Zenoisen. You could do either one. Either you could put the ashes first and then the water, or you could put the water first and then the ashes by Paraduma, and it'll be kosher. So now, V'Rabbanan, however, the Chachamim who argue with it, the Chachamim don't say that you can do either one first. El Keli Davke. That when the Torah says El Keli, that's the main thing. That the Torah is saying that the water has to go straight into the vessel. You put the water in first by Paradu. So now, olav, what's the word olav coming to teach you? La'arvan, to teach you that you have to mix them. That you have to mix together the water, that the ashes and the water should be very mixed together. So now, ve'ema olav dafka. So why are you choosing the words El Keli to be dafka? Maybe put olav as the main thing, that the water should be on top of the ashes. Why are you saying that the ashes should be on top of the water? Ve'ema olav dafka. So says the Gemara, and El Keli shetei chayusam b'kli. And what do you do with the words El Keli now? You should do with the words El Keli that it should be straight into the vessel. Don't read it that it has to be the first thing into the vessel and there should be nothing blocking. Say that the water should go straight into the vessel. That chayusan b'kli, that straight from the spring, you put it right into the vessel. You can't put it in another vessel first and then pour that into the vessel that you're using. You first put ashes in the bowl and then you go to the spring and fill it up with water. So maybe that's what it's saying. Says the Gemara, no. Ma'motzinu, it's a general halacha that we find other places, b'chol makom, in any other place, that the machshir is l'mayla, that when it comes to a certain substance, that you're adding another substance to make that kosher for something. For example, by Sotah, the water of the Sotah becomes kosher when you add the dust into it. Another thing, dam tzipar, that when it comes to the blood of the mitzvah that we spoke about before, you have the water becomes kosher to sprinkle on the mitzvah when you add the blood. And the machshir, the thing that you're adding is the milo, is always on the top. So afkan, so too, since that's the case in other places in the Torah, we can assume that afkan by paraduma, machshir l'mayla, the thing that's making the water kosher to use as the paraduma water, should be on the top. So therefore the chachamim favor that. The what's it called? The El Keli is preferred, that it should be actually touching the vessel, and you put the ashes on top. However, according to Reb Shimon, it could be either one. So it's interchangeable. It could be either first the ashes or first the water. By Sotah, it should first be the water and then the ashes. But if you did it the other way, so according to Reb Shimon, it's still going to be kosher because you have Gzeir Shava too. Paraduma, the Chachamim don't hold of that whole thing, and they would say that it's going to be puzzle if you first put the ashes and then the water. And we will continue tomorrow with Daf Yud Zayin.